this overlapping thing as I try to illustrate. But again, if you build this up off of an elliptical shape, as I've been showing you guys how to create it from the crossing of the diagonals, that type of thing, can still kind of bend this piece up. So I'm making it kind of large, letting it go behind the cake here. And that's at least the initial crust. And the crust you can see the whole way across, depending on which one you're illustrating. And if I do a major and minor access just to try to find a centerpiece for it, it's going to raise this up so that it has an arch to it with all the filling that's in there. I'm going to plot out a little bit of space for the blueberries, kind of position the whipped cream there, and it's got 2 levels of strawberry. So it's trying to build that part up. So I'm just putting a center line there. And when you do this, the strawberry is going to be in the foreground. I'm just going to put like a circle to represent it. And then they wrap themselves around. They're kind of embedded in this custard. So it's kind of a semicircular shape. And when it gets around to the side, you lose them because the second tier of these berries show up. And just kind of placing those in there. So you get a lot of the help with this whipped cream. Kind of set it up there, and then the berries. So just kind of have it positioned out first of all. Then, if I look at the crust, you can see the vertical line, this line right here actually helps it, is going to represent that fluted section. And as it goes around to the left, perspective-wise, they're going to get closer together, and same to the right. Once I have that, I'm going to keep it down in the beginning. I'm going to start with this part. Just kind of curve. I already have the elliptical shape that it's following. And I can indicate the overlap of the fluted part at the bottom and heavy that up a little bit as it tapers its way out. Okay. Then as it goes to the top, the foreground has this loop, so I'm going to kind of put it in kind of heavy, wrapping it around. Then it goes the opposite direction. So something that gives it this overall look. Then the inside of it, you can see is still kind of fluted, yet it has a little raised piece. So I'm just going to follow that right across here. Using it kind of heavy because it's going to withstand some of the shading part of this part. When it gets off to the side, you can see the edge, at least the texture of it. And when it goes around this piece, again, I'm going to put some of the lines on the inside of this to help me space it out. And those may or may not stay as it goes around this way. And now I can put that piece in there, wrapping it around like so. And that gives me that look to it. This is kind of shaded. So now I kind of have that piece, the crust at least somewhat labeled out there. I go back in with some of the strawberries. The top part is going to have the smooth part. The other part's going to have the custard covering it up. So I try to build that up. And make this kind of big so you can see it. Zoom in for some detail in a minute. And again, as I heavy up some of this line, it's not going to hurt it. Second level has some of the foreground where you can still see the top of the strawberry enveloped in this delicious custardy cream part. Okay, and now when you take a look at this, the cream part on the inside, take a look at it. It's got a couple lines. It's wrapped around, so you're trying to look for a pattern that you can help you label this out there. So I'm just kind of radiating this line, and then once I get that, I'm finding it cresting here. So just kind of letting the ribbon of that foam as it comes out of there help me do this here. And a couple ridges of it. and leaving a little bit of space for these blueberries. So again, the overlap that you're doing, just kind of putting them in there as the shapes. And then once I get that, I can see some of the other side that has this strawberry. Still has the crust peeking around there just a little bit. And once I have that, then it's just ready for this onslaught of the shading. Again, you're taking a look at the edge of this, and if I zoom into this particular piece, it'll give you just a little clue as to some of this design. So you kind of take a look at this. The berries all have a value to it already. And whether you use this with a pencil or a computer tablet, whatever you're putting together, it's going to give you some of this design there. And just going along the edge. So here it's catching up the shadow to show the texture of that piece. This has a little bit of the ridge on here. And you can kind of see it envelop this here. So as you're building that up, depending on what pencil you have to use. So the overall tone of this, since it's still just the black and white of the pencil, still gives you some of the coloring in value. And the custard's a little darker, not by much. And then the values of this whipped cream are just white and a light value next to it. So let's see where that comes through. So it's kind of a tricky piece. And then once you get that overall setting of the values, then pick something. In this case, the overall dark is the strawberry. Sorry, the blueberry. Mixing my berries. And you can see that this has a lot of highlight in the picture, but it's all gooey and all the sugary stuff on there. So pick one of these shapes, find it, and then kind of imitate that value that's on there. Oops. So it doesn't really have a stayed highlight because of all the glossy texture to it. But it's still pretty dark. So you can build that up and blend it in. And then take a look at what that does to the values here. And then when you get to the strawberry, see if you can pick that up and really look for the texture. If you open it in preview, you can see it a little better. Work quickly here. So, and then it'll bring you back to the edge of the crust. Don't see that too much. And since I have it behind this cake, it can be dark to light there. So the thing that helps it read correct too is also the pattern. And actually when you get zoomed in like this, you can see that every shape, outline, everything has its texture to it. And then for the texture of these strawberries, just kind of putting a couple points onto them. Let's see how you get there. So it'll take a little more work on it, but at least you got the basic down.